Sunday night, and you know what that means. Ringside Heat is on the air on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lex Tan, host and producer of this show on the radio. We're going to be talking wrestling for the next hour here on Sauga 960 AM. Of course, you can always follow Ringside Heat on all social media at ringside_heat, and also follow us as well on Facebook, facebook.com/group/ringside heat. And we also have our YouTube up. Yes, we're doing video podcasts up on YouTube in its entirety, not just edited for the radio that we have over here, but in its entirety with the different side discussions that you're going to want to listen to as we go along. And you know what? This is a big weekend for the wrestling world. First of all, it is yesterday, as of the day that we are broadcasting this. Yesterday was March 16th, Austin 316 Day, and today, March the 17th, is the 22nd anniversary, or it's been 22 years, whatever the nomenclature is correct. It's been 22 years. It's March 17, 2002, where it was WrestleMania X8, and The Rock and Hulk Hogan locked horns at the Skydome. Very, very big day for all wrestling fans here in Toronto. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. Let's go and introduce the members of the ring crew that are going to be here with me today. First of all, let's introduce our theme music writer. I'm not sure if he can do the splits, but like Heath Slater, he's got kids. John Dawson at John Dawson Music. Johnny Boy, welcome back.
I cannot do the splits. I promise you. And I have never attempted them, but I can tell you I can't do them.
Ah, yes.
But I do have kids.
Nor do I think he would want to attempt it at his age.
I don't think so. I'm at that point. I'm not super old, but not super young.
Right.
Just old enough to not be young.
Yeah. Sounds like a Bare Naked Lady song. Was it? Yeah, that's right. It's from Alternative Girlfriend. Old at being young at being old. There you go. Shout out to my Scarborough peeps.
Great.
And also the other voice that you just heard as well, he is our resident sports and wrestling journalist. He makes money with sports and no need to barter, but he's the only one here born after that home run by Joe Carter. Jose Alfonso Taboada at Taboada 93. How you doing, brother?
Wow, that hurt. That hurt a lot. Yes, I was born 2 months after Joe Carter touched them all. How dare you?
Well, you were still technically alive. You were still technically
sure, but how dare you, sir? I've been dying for a World Series more than anything else. Now that I've done a WrestleMania, now the only thing I want to see is a World Series. You monster! We came so close in 2015. I don't want to count 2016 because we were closer in 2015. But how dare you? I was so sad in 2015. I was miserable when they were eliminated because I knew that if the Blue Jays advanced to the World Series that year over the Kansas City Royals, the Mets had no chance. I knew the Blue Jays were going to win it, and it did not happen. So screw you.
Well, screw me. But then MLB screwed the Blue Jays, and particularly and particularly on some of those questionable calls in that Game 6.
This is a wrestling podcast. I don't have an hour. We only have an hour, and I'm not going to spend it talking about the misery of that Game 6 in Kansas City. But
yes.
Sure.
However. Last point before we move on to actual talking about wrestling, I was just so happy. I was so happy to actually experience Blue Jays playoff baseball for the first time since 1993. And hey, you know what? Rogers Center Skydome. There's no better place. When that place is rocking, there's no better place to watch sports.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. And right now, however, there is a topic that I want to get to first off, and it concerns All Elite Wrestling. First off, on Wednesday, it was announced and it was confirmed that Mercedes Mone is now All Elite, with quite possibly the most lucrative wrestling contract for a female wrestler, I believe, according to Dave Meltzer.
Apparently, I don't know the details, but hey, kudos to her. I mean, she went for the bag and got it, and great reaction. There's a reaction she deserves, no doubt about it. I know she is like making her name known in the Indies and in Japan and all those other places. Of course, again, selfishly, I'll always wish it was WWE. Don't get me wrong, but I hope it's a great experience for her. I know there are fans that are concerned with some of the comments that she made to, I believe, to Fightful, saying how she eventually is going to be back in WWE, and then it's just like a pit stop, and she kind of openly admitted that it's for the money, and again, understandable, again, whatever the lucrative deal was, but you know what? She's there. Have fun. Enjoy it. It doesn't really matter if she wants to go back to WWE or not. Everybody moves jobs here and there. It's part of the business. That's just contract stuff. It's normal. So, sit back and enjoy the ride. And AEW definitely has some great talent that they got lined up. It's been a good month or so with debuts, and again, the direction is fantastic. Obviously, we hope that they can capitalize on it. But for now, just you guys got Mercedes Mone, so sit back and enjoy the ride because I'm sure it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that. Good for her. I mean, if she can get the money, get the money. And again, as I've often said with AEW, it's not always my first choice to watch wrestling, but I am really happy it's there because it's able to um, give options and an option where she's going to get more money than she might have in WWE, which I think is a pretty good bet. I don't think she would have, because if she was going to get more money, she'd probably be back in WWE.
Probably.
Uh, you know what I mean? So the fact that you've got places where where this talent can go and fight it out a little bit and get a bigger piece of the pie, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, we'll see what she does. Interesting if she does. Is she? I have a feeling. I think. Yeah, I'm surprised she's so open about it. But the idea of her coming back to WWE as an inevitability, um, that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I'm a little surprised she was that candid about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, and it was a little puzzling for sure, and I don't know if it's like PR 101 or whatever, but again, like I think like Fightful kind of looks for like those really candid interviews, so I'm not crazy surprised on it either, but it, I mean, it's not a secret, and like WWE was her first love, right? I mean, she was inspired by
Mhm.
Eddie. She loved WWE. She breathed WWE. I mean, I can only imagine what she felt like when she was at her first WrestleMania, when she, what was getting so involved up on the main roster. Seeing what she did growing up. It shouldn't be a surprise. I guess one of those like you never forget your first love kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Well, I wonder too. Yes, I think you're right, Jose. But also, I think if any AEW talent was truly honest with themselves, I don't think you could compare even the biggest AEW stage to a WrestleMania.
No, no doubt
Like,
about it.
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So everyone knows. Like, if there really is only one place to have that, so she just probably says what they're all thinking.
And
You
not
know?
to say that AEW can't get there, but before we
No,
before
they
we may
might.
get some comments, right? It's not that AEW can't get there. It's just right now. I mean, this has been the landscape, and the landscape for the long time. Again, AEW still looks like a youngling when you compare it to how long the
Yeah,
WWE
they
has been
are.
involved, right? So it's a normal standard, to see wrestlers wanting to go to WrestleMania. But yes, the AEW can get there. It's still gonna take time, and
Yeah, and again, man, and I want to be clear. My problem with AEW has never been AEW. I don't really like much of the kind of fandom that comes out of it. That's all.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my issue's never been the company or the fact it exists. It's what I see coming from a lot of the fans. That's
Mm-hmm.
all. You
yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm. Ringside Heat and Newstalk Saga 960 AM. We're going to stick with the AEW talk right now because, of course, as you know, AEW will be coming to the Coca-Cola Coliseum on March the 20th for a taping of AEW Dynamite. And one of the headlining matches, especially for us, us Toronto wrestling fans, is one of the main events there is going to be the two Toronto hometown boys, Orangeville hometown boys, Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage in an I Quit match for the TNT Championship. This will be the third match that they are meeting each other up for, and it's going to be quite the homecoming, I think, for both before Adam Copeland and Christian. And the reason why I mentioned this as well is because we also have a big announcement regarding Adam Copeland, because he will be here on Ringside Heat this week on social media and also on our regular radio and Spotify and video streams as well too, coming up next week. And and I'm just glad, I am just over the moon happy to be able to get a chance to talk to one of the greatest wrestlers, not just greatest Canadian wrestlers, one of the greatest wrestlers to have ever laced up boots.
Yeah, man, that's huge.
It's surreal to even like even when Lex told us that the possibility was there, just a possibility, we're like, really?
I had to read it like 3 times. I was like, wait a second, I think I even asked if I was reading this right. Yeah.
We're really, really excited. I'm sure it's gonna be a phenomenal time. We can't believe it, obviously. So obviously tune in for that, because we know that Edge is Anna Copeland is such a great interview. He's definitely candid, very open. So I'm really excited. So really great for the show, and can't wait to see how that all unfolds. So what a get.
Yeah, and so and we thank AEW for being so gracious and giving us this time that we're going to be spending with Adam this coming weekend, or next week rather, and the fact that Adam and Christian, Adam and Jay, really, to us Toronto people, are coming home and doing a big match, and a relevant match, not just some nostalgia pop match, but an actual relevant to the main storylines with the current flock of talent in AEW, and they're giving that to us here in Toronto. I think that's pretty phenomenal, honestly.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. Anybody who can should go see that, because it's to the Coca-Cola Coliseum, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been to house shows there. I mean, seeing those two guys in that venue, you will not regret, because it's intimate enough that you're going to feel you're ringside almost no matter where you are.
And it's a venue that I'm sure they both grew up going as well. Yeah. So it's I mean, I was a little skeptical of the location at first, because again, I do think that AEW in Toronto deserves Scotiabank Arena moving forward after what we saw at Forbidden Door last year. But
yeah, I'm just surprised myself.
But when you bring that up, John, it makes a lot of sense. And again, the possibilities are in it, because it is a small arena. It's about
11,000 seats, I believe.
There you go, 10 to 12K.
I thought it was 15, but yeah, it's like you're right. It's smaller than that. Yeah,
it's small. It's small because the Scotiabank Arena is about what, 17 to 20.
Yeah, 18 to 20. Yeah, because they have the upper bowl and everything. It's like Coca-Cola is just basically the lower bowl.
The lower half. And again, like I've done house shows there as well. I've done hockey games as well there too. It's a great venue. It's a very small venue, but it's a very fun venue, especially for wrestling. So that is,
and it will be a phenomenal match. There's no way Adam and Jay are gonna leave anything. Like, it's going all. Like, they're not leaving anything on the table there. Like, I mean, like, it's gonna be. You're gonna get the best of that both of those guys have to offer right now. So it's gonna be a real treat. There's no question for any wrestling fan.
And it's not like these guys have lost a step either in their wrestling, in their wrestling skill, because it's like, you can see different wrestlers coming back, and and obviously the DX versus the Brothers of Destruction that we don't talk about anymore. You could see that happening, and these guys as well. They're in their 50s. They're in phenomenal shape. They are in phenomenal ring shape as well, and they're and them as characters still connecting with the crowd. I'm so proud of those guys, and I can't believe how we're still in a day and an age that we have E and C. A and C, if you want to put it that way. It's like relevant in the way they are today.
Well, it goes to show the level of skill. And I know we got a lot to talk about in this episode, but it seems like. It reminds me of how HBK was even better when he came back. But when you operate in my opinion, he was the best run of his career was that.
I feel that's not even argued, because I feel like that's a very popular mindset, and I feel like, honestly, if people disagree, I think that's where I say they're wrong, because
Yeah,
he was fantastic. Just
yeah, you couldn't compare it. Couldn't compare it. I saw Rey Mysterio on SmackDown, and the guy, same thing. The guy's moving. They adapt just enough. Like if you watch Halloween Havoc '97, Rey Mysterio is obviously different than 2024 Rey Mysterio, but there is a consistency and there's a growth. And I feel that with Adam and Jay, that obviously Adam's not going to be spearing a guy off a ladder, but he is perfectly in step with where he's at, and it doesn't look like he's compensating for age. It's just his style has evolved, and that shows a level of skill that I just think we need to appreciate that those two guys are active and about to do what they're going to do. So
yeah.
go get tickets.
Mm-hmm. That's AEW Collision. Sorry, that's AEW. Shoot, let me try that again. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yep, and that's March the 20th. AEW coming to Toronto for their TV tapings, and of course, the biggest match for us Toronto wrestling fans: Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, TNT Championship, I Quit match. Can't get any better for Toronto wrestling fans, man. It's such it's an honor to be able to be able to say that these guys are wrestling here in Toronto, but it's also even bigger honor to say that Adam Copeland will be here on Ringside Heat next week. Looking forward to that, and I know you should be too. And at that point, we are going to take a short break, but we're also going to talk about, after the break, another wrestler who is in his 50s, who has had a career that was big, that was big years and years ago, and coming back and is still relevant today. But there's a hot take that comes with that as well too, that John's going to give us as well. And we're going to talk about The Rock and the continuing Bloodline storyline, and his latest promos that happened on SmackDown and on social media. We'll be back after these promotion considerations. Welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Lex Tan alongside John Dawson at John Dawson Music, Jose Taboada at Taboada93, and of course, you can follow Ringside Heat at Ringside_Heat on all social media, as well at Lex Tan Media. That's me. And so, previously, we were talking about before the break that we have two of the greatest Canadian wrestlers and two of the greatest wrestlers of this generation, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, going to be headlining AEW in Toronto on March the 20th for their TV tapings and in an I Quit match for the TNT Championship. Two guys that have had long careers in wrestling, who were introduced to us 20 some odd years ago, and have become the big stars and not just nostalgia names, but relevant names, and continue to be relevant names. And one of those guys, obviously, not just in AEW, not in AEW, obviously, but one of those guys, obviously, is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who continues to be a force in the WWE. And of course, he always have said it. He's been saying it ever since he came back in 2011 after 7 years away, that his blood is WWE. His father, his grandfather, he loves this business, he loves this industry, and he loves this company so much so that he's basically the boss now. But right now, there is a hot take that I want to hear from John regarding the last Friday night's promo, where he entered to the Hollywood Rock theme from 2003, and that hit me right in the feels. I was in a McDonald's grabbing a Filet-O-Fish for Lent, and I'm waiting there for my food. I'm watching SmackDown on my phone, and then I hear the Hollywood rock theme hit after his 2011 song started playing, and I nearly marked out loud. In that, I had to actually like bite my damn arm in order for me to stop from marking out loud, because I was so happy to hear that. But I know that John, I want to hear John's take on this, and I'll talk more about mine afterwards.
Well, we got a like I started watching it late, and it was, my sister-in-law actually texted my wife and said, "How do you explain this language to your kids?" And I was like, "Pardon?" So she gave us a heads up of what was coming in the rock concert, and for the first time in years, I had to shut off wrestling in front of my kids.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. Wow.
Wow. I damn.
and I did not care for that, and my wife was really upset, um, because, as I've been saying since The Rock got back, it is lowbrow, cheap shot, cheap pop, cheap heat, attitude errors over promos that I think are so below a guy who's supposed to be the top actor or whatever he is in Hollywood. It is it's awkward to watch. And then he's obsequious with the fans in moments where it's like, I love you too. It's like, well, are we loving or are we hating? I don't know what we're doing here. But the point was, sorry, the main point was that I actually had the shot wrestling off for my kids. That bothered me because this has been my point all along, is that this has been a family experience for me for years. I don't need to be frat boy watching stuff that's like, hey, oh, you mentioned, this is like, and, kind of laughing at the awkwardness and, crassness of the humor. That's over, man. I'm in my 40s. I got kids. I want to enjoy it with them. And I couldn't do that last night because The Rock can't seem to figure out how to match this walking clown emoji that we've heard for the 1500th time in the last month. I am shocked at how disappointed I am in The Rock right now.
Wow.
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 Wow. That's what
There you
it's like what parts like got you to shut down? Like what exactly in the rock concert?
I didn't watch. It was just that I got, again, I got kind of, it's just stuff that it's like, how do I explain, sex for money or things like this? And not that these things aren't in the ether anyway. It's just he's making comments in the song where
Right.
it's like, I don't know, man. Like,
Right.
I'm not trying to sound overly prudish, but it's just like this hasn't been. Even they know, like I think we caught one thing he said, like, "Oh wow, the Rocks." Even in earlier promos, stuff about the crackheads, everything. I've had to be careful with, and they're turning to me, going, well, "What's a crackhead?" You know what I mean, or things like that. I'm like this is why are we having this
Yeah, it's not.
conversation?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. That's all I'm saying. It's like it's unnecessary for him to do this.
Which is interesting because if you look back 22 years ago or 21 years ago, the very first rock concert in Sacramento, he was able to get over like what's that? Leaving Sacramento. Yes, he talked about the fat women over there or whatever like that. So okay, whatever. But his big punchline, "I'll be sure to come back when the Lakers beat the Kings in May." And he got the
And that was the
biggest pop
big
out of that. It was clever, it was hilarious, and it was clean and family friendly. At least that line.
no, but I mean that's the thing. But even if the rest of it wasn't, and my wife was even like, him saying things like "man up." It's like that's such a dated call out for a guy in 2024. It's just he's just looking more and more, um, just more and more out of touch with the character work a wrestler in WWE does in 2024. And it's like, of course The Rock can do it's funny when The Rock does a couple shots at people, but it's over the top, and it's so ham-fisted is the word I've been using for him since he came back. But it's like, dude, you're on Fox on a Friday. I know Fox has never had the most the reputation for being the most family friendly network, but in past years it has been. And but it's like, why are we doing this? And why do I have to watch WWE before I show it to my kids to make sure he's not going to say something that I have to go, well, son, this means this, like, not that that doesn't listen. I know the media landscape. I know YouTube. I get it all, but it's to me, it's just unnecessary.
See, I I mean, like, look. Obviously, the 2003 kid in me was super excited to see it. I mean, I was running laps around my buddy's living room. I was so happy to hear the Hollywood theme back, and
Mm-hmm.
the John Morant line was vicious to say the least. I mean, like, it's if I mean, one thing to take shots at Seth and Cody, but to take shots at John Morant with his controversy in the NBA, and I'm just looking at my buddy, I'm going, holy heck, he went there. See, yes, like I'm on your side in the sense that yes, I'm tired of the whole clown thing too, and I need an evolved Rock. I do, because this it's it's a different era, and I think you're definitely finding ways to be entertaining and all that. But what impressed me was the way he composed himself after the Rock concert, with the belt, and sure, he was bringing up Cody's mom and everything. It wasn't really insulting Cody's mother. It was more of like, here's what I'm going to do. But the menacing and the threatening tone
Mm-hmm.
that he portrayed, to me, that's what I was looking for with this new era of Rock in this road to WrestleMania. I was hooked, and I'm saying, okay, this is what I need. Stop with the cheap insults. Stop with the whole walking clown emoji, blah blah blah. Cody crybabies, well, and again, that's just me, but I needed to see something that felt like it matches the intensity of the promos that we see today. Not that the promos back then weren't intense, but there's a way that promos today are composed and focused and determined that sound like really convincing. The Rock, I think, finally did that this past Friday night on SmackDown after the Rock concert. I think the Rock concert was that throwback that we all wanted. I loved it. I had a great time. Of course, if I had kids, I'm sure my mindset would be the same as well. Now that I'm replaying some of the lyrics back in my head,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just that crucial part after that said, this is the Rock that I needed on the road to WrestleMania, and I think this is the Rock that deserves that to stay, like, that stays. Cut the childish, like John said, cut the childish, like, firebacks. Like, we don't need the cheap insults. Like John said it, we heard clown emoji 85 million times.
Yep.
Give me
Yeah,
that
no.
menacing, threatening Rock that you
He's
showed.
got to do better than playground insults.
Yeah,
He's just got to do,
and
you know,
that's why I think I think, like, at least after the Rock concert, I think that deserves a listen to, because again, I'm sitting in my seat going, oh damn.
his
So
gem, his gem was calling himself the final boss.
yeah,
Ooh, yes, and
As it was the game, I was like, there you go. Now you're on to something.
and that's what, and he
Now
sold
you're
it.
on.
And he sold it
Yeah.
with his weight belt. He sold it in that promo to Cody's mother, which I guess is now gonna have a huge role in the main event of WrestleMania.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But no, it's like, this is the final boss, and The Rock, I think, is finally channeling into that character. He showed it. I need that. I need that for the next 20 days. I
Mm-hmm.
need it.
And what
That
I
whole
love about that
segment. Sorry, Lex.
what I love about that line about the final boss is that it can fuel that feud that's going to happen eventually between Roman and The Rock, and when they have their WrestleMania match and moment for the whole head of the table thing. Rock calling himself the final boss, but Roman the head of the table. And Paul Heyman, I would love to see Paul Heyman pick up on that and react to it, and start to, like, get worried about the stability of the bloodline because of that.
Yeah, and I think though that taps into. I mean, we all know that. I watch a lot of up, up, down, down. I mean, they're those guys are sitting back there playing video games while they're waiting for their match to start. I mean, the gamer culture is. And so I thought that was a good. It's like, okay, he's identifying something in current WWE culture that he's building on. I like that. It's just surrounded. I had to really sift through a lot of crap to get to that one little gem, and to me, it was unnecessary crap. That entire segment was 25 minutes. That was a quarter of SmackDown was that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bloated. It just didn't. And again, it's confusing. You talk about menacing The Rock, but is he? Because he's again, we talked about kayfabe 2.0 last week, or maybe the week before, whatever it was.
Yep.
The idea he can flip between those two characters of kind of Dwayne and his history and all that. But it's like, are we loving you or are we hating you? And um, I don't think he's as over as a heel as even he didn't think he thought he'd be over as a face. He was booed a little bit. So he's like, he leans into it. So I almost feel bad for him because I feel like he's kind of pivoting
He
as
doesn't
he
know what he
goes.
wants.
He
Yeah.
does. Well, he knows what he wants, but he's listening. He's like, well, okay, now I wanted you to get you to hate me, but now you're not hating me. So there's a real problem with how he positions himself because we don't want to hate The Rock. We want him to turn on Roman. That's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We want Cody to beat Roman, but we want Rock to squash Roman.
Mm-hmm.
We need the two of them there.
But here's the thing, though, with last night, with last night being in Memphis, being such a big part of the Memphis wrestling scene, getting his start there as Flex Kavana, and he called that out, and people remember
Never
that.
heard that name in my life. Lex Cabana.
That was his name back in Memphis wrestling.
I legitimately had no idea.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, he has several episodes of him and Harvey Whippleman in that promotion of Young Rock where he was Flex Cabana. So
I'll be damned.
yeah, so it's very interesting actually. But the thing is, it is what he did last night. It made it so hard for me to boo him. I want to boo him because he's supposed to be the damn heel. He's supposed to be the heel. We want to cheer Cody Rhodes, and we want Cody Rhodes to win that championship, and he will. I believe he will. However, it is so hard to boo The Rock because he's just so entertaining, and that is the thing that's the blessing and the curse that he's had ever since the Attitude Era. He was so good, or he was so good as a heel that eventually people wanted to just cheer him, and he leaned into that. And then all of a sudden, Rock and Hogan, then now people want to boo him, and so now he's got to go lean into that, which birthed Hollywood Rock. But he was so good again as Hollywood Rock, people cheered him again.
I think I think forgive me for minor. I think this is what I think it's called a catch-22 because.
Yes. Exactly.
I think I'm using the phrase right. Again, forgive my ignorance on the term, but
you're correct. I believe you are.
The only way you get attention on the product is if Rock does what he did in the past, right? That's the problem. I mean, we all wanted the Hollywood theme. We're like, hey, he's a heel. Give us the Hollywood theme. And the way it was introduced, it was more into like, holy crap, that is amazing. Then he gets a cheer automatically, right? Unfortunately, I feel like because they want the eyes on the product and because they want all eyes and maximize profits leading into WrestleMania 40, he kind of has to play into those roles. That kind of what made him popular in the early 2000s in the Attitude Era. That if you were completely pivot and introduce this completely different Rock, it's not going to work. And that's the problem because a lot of comments on social media is like, well, this is the Rock I wanted, the insults. This is the heel that I wanted, but you're cheering the heel. So, and again, with 20 days to go until WrestleMania 40, I don't think the Rock is going to suddenly pivot and abandon everything because it's getting eyes on the product. So, I think it's hard for Rock to evolve unless he was in a complete full-time capacity because there's already reports coming out saying that he's already out filming again from May to August, I think.
Yeah,
or something
he's
like
not going
that.
to be in
So-
Saudi Arabia.
So we definitely oh the horror, but we definitely but we can't let The Rock find and develop something completely new because he has to stick to the classics in what's now becoming a shorter period of time. The time's getting smaller and smaller until we get to Philly. So I think it's difficult.
It's difficult, and you're right. But I guess this is. I'm always putting it with that that asterisk. This is supposed to be the top actor in Hollywood. You think he could have pivoted a little bit better if he's is you know what I mean? If anybody could do it, it should be the highest paid guy in Hollywood.
Touche.
Like,
Touche.
come on, and so this far down the road, it's
that's why I thought, at least in my opinion, and that's why I think after the Rock concert, that's the pivot we started, because they finally started going into the final boss aspect, right? Because the last few weeks it was just insulting the other two, just kind of like, again, eyes on a product. But that pivot at the end of that promo, everybody cheered and booed. Okay, everybody cheered. Okay, I gave you what you want. Now listen to me very, very, very closely. And if he channels that for the next 3 weeks, I think he's got it. But again, he's running out of time. I don't know if he's advertised for SmackDown. I know Roman and Cody get the face off, which, by the way, that's more crucial than ever now, because The Rock is getting so much attention that suddenly Cody and Roman are starting to become afterthoughts, and that's scary because
yes and no. I agree with you, but it also keeps the Cody Roman thing separate, so we can go into it as fans and still everybody knows where they stand there, because it hasn't been too aligned with the gray area of The Rock. Right? Like, we're going to have it night one, but invariably they're going to lose, and invariably you're going to get bloodline rules. I think that's where The Rock's going to start waffling a bit, like maybe this is going too far with the bloodline rules. But I think you'll get a perfect Cody underdog story, and they're keeping it away, I think, just enough.
Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. Wow, what a segment that was. That was, wow, almost 20 minutes we talked about The Rock. Just as much as he took, almost as much time as he took on SmackDown on Friday. But we're gonna need to take a break right now. And in the final segment of the show, I mentioned it earlier, it is. Let's talk about Rock versus Hulk Hogan 22 years later, and we will get into that a little bit more as we come back from the break on Sauga 960 AM. This is Ringside Heat, back after these promotional considerations. Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lex Tan. At Lex Tan Media is my social media handle. At Ringside_Heat is the show's social media handle. Alongside John Dawson at John Dawson Music, Jose Taboada at Taboada93, and before we get into this last topic for this episode, again, get your tickets for AEW. AEW this coming March the 20th at the Coca-Cola Coliseum, where Adam Copeland and Christian Cage will be headlining with an I Quit match for the TNT Championship. Two Toronto boys coming home to a venue that they most likely attended different shows at and grew up with, and it's just great to see those guys coming back. And speaking of which, Adam Copeland himself will be on Ringside Heat next week on our social media and on our regular radio show as well. So watch out for that. It is going to be epic. It is going to be epic to have one of the greatest wrestlers of this generation on our screens, and us actually talking with him, which is crazy to me still. So thank you, AEW, and thank you, Adam Copeland, for being so gracious with that. And we look forward. We really look forward to talking with you. Now, something that Adam Copeland has been here in Toronto for WrestleMania 6. He attended as a kid. He wanted to be a wrestler. He decided he wanted to be a wrestler when he attended WrestleMania 6, and I think John's gonna have the same kind of deal with his son attending WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. You know. But Adam Copeland also had a homecoming for WrestleMania X8 It's been, as of this broadcast, it is 22 years. Crazy to think. 22 years since Rock and Hogan locked horns and stole the damn show, WrestleMania 18, in a match that LA Knight said this week was one of his one of his favorite all-time WrestleMania moments.
It's a lot of favorites. Zelina Vega listed that as well. It's a very popular favorite, deservedly so. It's my favorite.
Exactly, and I know we've been talking during the break. Yes, we have. You've probably heard us talk about Rock and Hogan over and over again, and throughout the course of our run here on Sauga 960 AM. But because it is the anniversary, I'd like to revisit that a little bit and talk about, I guess, maybe more of the external impacts of that, not just of the personal impacts on ourselves, but the external impacts that Rock and Hogan gave to the wrestling world. Like, for instance, LA Knight, Zelina Vega, having them there as favorites. John, you're going to start it off.
Okay, two things. It feels like listening to all those favorites. It's the way, like Jericho's generation talked about Savage Steamboat. You ask any of those guys, like what match got them into wrestling? It was Savage Steamboat Wrestling, Savage Steamboat WrestleMania 3. I don't know, and I'm trying to think as we've been talking about it. I'm trying to think back. I don't know that I've ever seen, and this may speak to its significance from a business perspective. I don't think I've ever seen a match or situation where a crowd has so clearly changed the future of two icons like that. Maybe Bret Hart, Stone Cold. There was a double turn there, but the way the crowd dictated that match, and it was a WrestleMania crowd, so I don't think it's fair to say it was just Toronto, although we love to say that. We turned Hogan face.
Right.
Yep.
Rock still blames us.
Rock still blames. That's fine. I'll take it. It seems like a very unique thing that happened there, because I remember watching it at the time, going, "Wow!" In real time, I'm watching this organic shift in what was in the entire build up and what was supposed to be executed as heel Hogan, face Rock, and it went away. It was, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that. Now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, that was the beginning of something new in the way the in-ring product unfolded, some storylines would unfold. I don't know what you guys think of that.
I mean, it brought back the red and yellow Hogan, which propelled him to a championship a month after.
Yeah, that gave him a whole...
The Rock pivoted. We got Hollywood Rock, and it enhanced the story a little bit more when No Way Out the following year was in Montreal.
Yeah.
Right. So and they did Rock Hogan 2, which obviously didn't match up to the first one, but it's no. I really can't think. I mean, the face off. The face-off moment has been recreated a lot since. I mean, Rock Cena at WrestleMania 28 is a big example, but in my opinion, I feel like, and maybe this is just from the generation that I grew up in, because I had a friend of mine, he recently saw it for the first time the other day, and he said that this moment's not for me. But he says he understands it was not for me, so I nearly slapped him. But it might be a generational thing. It's just, it's like John said, it's tough. It's really, really tough to find a moment that kind of matched it. In fact, I think my match would probably be Hart Austin, because I mean, Austin 316 was the thing and all, and then he was on his way up, but wasn't really kidding strong. And then the double turn happened at WrestleMania 13, and then it led it led the way to a vicious Hart, which all obviously, which I think his frustration is also obviously showed. And not saying that led to the screw job, but I'm wouldn't be surprised if it had maybe some sort. I don't know if I'm what I'm saying, or maybe some sort of factor. And then Austin used the stardom, and it catapulted him to insane lengths in the WWE. That saved the company.
I think those two, and look at the four involved. I mean, that is a Mount Rushmore in and of itself.
Yeah.
But those are the only two matches I can think of that were such massive, like, create new timeline level shifts in wrestling. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's up there.
I mean, it's like, I mean, you could argue that the Daniel Bryan situation maybe, and the way that the fans forced the turn, but that took over a couple of months. It wasn't in a single night. That was building up for a long, long time. But if you're talking about like in
I
the
think
moment
that's not the same.
that night,
No.
no, I can't. Again, if I would love to be
No,
corrected.
I don't think anybody anticipated it. I don't think. Now, what I would have found interesting, because I remember when it happened, I was actually disappointed because I was always more of an Austin than a Rock guy, always. Because Austin's what pulled me back in at 14, not Rock, although Rock was hilarious. But I was disappointed it wasn't Rock Hogan. To me, I didn't think of it as generation versus generation, but icon versus icon. To me, it was Hogan and Austin that were the two guys that should have been staring at each other.
And, and
Um,
and it's funny because Austin at that WrestleMania, it's had the moment with the stunner, but it's not really a match or a moment that's kind of talked about. It's kind of it felt kind of a throwaway thing with Stone with Scott Hall, which sucks.
I was quite upset about that. So I'm like, Austin's in a mid card match. He should have been headlining
Hmm.
Hogan. I remember feeling that the whole time. And I wonder what the crowd would have done. You know what I mean? I think uh, it's amazing what would have happened had that been Austin. It wouldn't have mattered. I think the crowd could have booed Austin all they wanted. Austin would have just gone with it, stunned them, and eventually it would
Probably.
have, you know what I mean? It would have been fine. He wouldn't have lost anything. He'd still be Austin because Austin was a very difficult guy to turn heel. He had to talk about going to insane lengths the way The Rock is. Austin was wearing cowboy hats and singing "Kumbaya." It took everything for people to boo this guy. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous. And then we loved that. The only time I think you really start with the 2-man power trip really took off. Then it was like, okay, I have to dislike you now. But it took a lot to get Austin over as a heel
I'm
because it's
pretty
Austin.
sure like the fans at WrestleMania 17 were trying to figure out what was going on and still
I
kept
remember
cheering.
watching going like, when's he going to stun Vince? When's he going to stun Vince? And even Austin says he's like, Vince should have just ate a stunner and I should have had a beer bath and walked out and left everything. Like he knows that was a mistake. But yeah.
It,
Anyways, it's a massive, massive moment in wrestling for me. It was the first WrestleMania my wife, first wrestling event she ever watched with me, with my grandfather, and with Colin, and so it's a special one. Um, I think it's tying in a little bit to, and this is going to maybe a bit out of left field. I wonder if we're going to see a similar dynamic with our current situation, but maybe reverse, um, where they try and put Rock over his face in this tag match. Um, what does the crowd do? I'm very curious to see because The Rock has a way of triggering lots of interesting things with crowds. Some love and some hate, and it seems like on any given night, we don't know.
It's tough because I think we're all in the hype now after the Rock concert and everything, but Cody's still Cody, and it's like he's still getting his pops. It's not gonna. I don't think the Cody pops is suddenly not like it's suddenly is. Sorry, I don't think the Cody pops are gonna suddenly disappear just because the Rock is kind of like
No,
on the up and up again. That's not happening. And I think at WrestleMania when we're all desperate to see the title change that we did not get last year. I feel like no matter what, maybe night one, maybe we get a big Rock ovation. I wouldn't be surprised, but night two it's all going to be about Cody. And I think The Rock can, again, catapult himself again if he does what we're all expecting him to do, which is, of course, turn on Roman.
hmm
yeah.
Ringside Heat on News Talk Saga 960 AM. That is it for our show here today. We want to thank you for sticking around, and we want to thank you for listening to us talk about all the fun things that we found this week with AEW, with The Rock, with the anniversary of WrestleMania X8, and as well too, and the celebration as well, and the excitement that we're feeling about Adam Copeland coming to Ringside Heat as well. So I want to thank John Dawson at John Dawson Music, Jose Taboada at Taboada93, and I want to thank all of you listening on the radio here on Sauga 960, on your favorite podcatcher, and as well as on YouTube when we have all of this stuff put up and everything. And we want to thank you again, and we will talk to you next week with more wrestling talk, our last episode before WrestleMania. So we're going to try to go big and go for broke over there because we're going to be fans. We're going to go to WrestleMania in Philadelphia, and we're just going to be fans there, and we're going to have a great time. And if you're going to WrestleMania, make sure you reach out to us, and let's meet up, and let's enjoy professional wrestling, WWE, WrestleMania together. This is Ringside Heat. You can follow it at Ringside Heat. You can follow us at Ringside_Heat. You can follow me at Lex Tan Media. Take care. Talk to you next week. Ringside Heat, we remember the things that you care to forget.